Hey Switch 2 fans, according to Nintendo, the Switch 2 will outperform the PS5 and the PS4's first year sales combined, according to Nintendo. We're going to take a look at the article right now. But first, like, subscribe, click the bell icon if you want to stay up to date on Switch 2 news, gaming news, tech news, handheld gaming news, and all that stuff in between. Please like and subscribe, it helps out a lot. And also, check the links down below in the video description for the best accessories for the Switch 2, as well as a bunch of other really cool deals and stuff like that. And I'm hoping there will be a link for the YouTube shopping thing that will let you buy these two microSD cards. The SanDisk 256GB available to buy right now. It's back ordered, but at least you can order it from sandisk.com. It's one of the more affordable, reasonable express microSDs you can buy, as well as the Adorama 1TB Lexar Play Pro, which is also an express card for $219.99 from Adorama. I definitely recommend you get one of these. These are going to be indispensable when the Switch 2 comes out. And if you haven't already, check my channel page or the link at the top of the description here to go to our Switch 2 24-hour, 7-day-a-week Switch 2 Hangout stream and Switch 2 stock tracker, which plays an alarm when the Switch 2 gets restocked at all the major retailers. So whenever Best Buy has a restock, Walmart, etc., etc., it'll play a loud alarm to let you know it's available to buy. So definitely come say hi. We've got a great community over there. But on to the article. So yeah, Switch 2 will outperform the PS5 and the PS4's first year sales combined. Obviously the PS5 had a lot of stock issues, and I see a lot of similarities between the PS5 and Switch 2, because obviously the Switch 2 comes, at a time where we're getting a lot of trade market disruption with the tariffs. There's obviously stock issues with bringing, Switch 2 units into the United States from China because of the 164% tariff on Chinese products. So Nintendo's trying to pivot to bringing stuff in from Vietnam and Cambodia, where they also make Switch 2s, just nowhere near as many. So obviously there's a lot of craziness going on, and there's going to be a shortage of Switch 2s, basically, just like the PS5. And the PS5 came out during COVID, and all of course, like the CPU chip shortage and shipping shortages and issues back in 2020, 2021. So I see a lot of similarities. Anyways, Nintendo's predicted the Switch 2 will sell 15 million units in its first year in its latest financial report. And if you compare that to something like a Valve Steam Deck, right, a PC handheld gaming PC, they've sold about 4 to 7 million units in its lifetime. The Steam Deck sold about 4 to 7 million units in its lifetime, whereas the Switch 2 will sell 15 million in its first year in its latest financial report. And if achieved, that would be the same as the PS5 and the PS4 and what they managed in the respective first years combined. It would also beat the 14.86 million record set by the original Switch. So they're hoping that this is going to sell as much, if not more, more than the original Nintendo Switch, which would be absolutely crazy. Nintendo has high hopes for the Switch 2. The company filed in its financial report for the year ending March 31st, 2025, and in it, Nintendo has noted that it expects to sell 15 million Switch 2 consoles by the end of its current financial year. If Nintendo achieves that, it will make the Switch 2's console launch one of the most successful of all time. The original Switch sold 14.86 million consoles during its first year, an incredible achievement, and Nintendo thinks its sequel will better that. Impressive all by itself, but even more so when you factor in the Switch 2's not even having a full year to hit that goal like its predecessor. So they're assuming, from June all the way to December, not an entire, from January to December year. So that's pretty nuts. This 15 million milestone is predicted for the sales total by the end of the current financial year. Okay, never mind. Okay, so the Switch 2 sold from consoles launched on June 5th until March 31st. So it's a couple of months short of a full 12 months. For a more recent comparison, just how in demand Nintendo expects the Switch 2 to be, 15 million is double the number of PS5s PlayStation managed to sell during its newest console's first financial year. They think at least 15 million of us will have one by this time next year. And Nintendo isn't only expecting the Switch 2 to far outsell the PS5's first year sales, since the PS4 sales are roughly the same as the console that replaced it during its own first year. Nintendo's next console is predicted to do as well or better than the PS5 and PS4 did from the launch at the end of their first financial years combined. On one hand, think back to how hard it was to get the PS5 at launch, almost impossible, and even though other elements need to be considered, like a shortage of semiconductors, which did happen, as I talked about just previously, Nintendo's expected to double that number. On the other hand, the gap between the Switch 2's launch and the end of its first fiscal year is longer than the PS5's. The PS5 launched in November 2020, and the financial year ended a little bit more than 4 months later. The same applies to the PS4. However, even when given a full calendar year, neither the PS5 nor the PS4 managed to hit 15 million units sold. It took both of the PlayStation's newest consoles more than a year to achieve that. And Nintendo even themselves has suggested that it actually underestimated how many Switch 2s it would need out of the gate. 2.2 million people requested the pre-order invites in Japan alone, and Nintendo admitted it doesn't have nearly enough to go around at launch. And if you were involved in the pre-order chaos in the US, you'll know firsthand that a lot of people want Nintendo next-gen console as soon as possible. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below, guys. Are you surprised that Nintendo Switch 2 is as successful as it is? As I say in like every video, I think it's not a case of the fact that the Switch 2 hardware is just mind-blowingly, insanely good, and that it's just like it trumps everything else. I think a big part of it is just, first of all, nostalgia. Nintendo has a really hardcore community of people that love their consoles. And 3, pent-up demand. Obviously, we've been talking about and hearing rumors of a Switch 2 coming out since 2021. Obviously, you know, we thought it was going to come out 2021, 2022, 2023. I remember back before the OLED Switch got announced, we all thought that was going to be the Switch 2. It ended up not being the Switch 2, and people were disappointed. So yeah, there's been a lot of pent-up demand and a lot of people expecting and wanting the Switch 2 to come out for a long time, and I think all these factors play in Nintendo's favor. Obviously, it is new games, new graphics, new features, higher price, big community that loves Nintendo, nostalgia, and obviously the fact that it has been about 8 years since they released released the original Switch. So everyone's been waiting for this for a long time, so I think that reflects in big part the reason why it's so successful, or at least the pre-orders have been so successful. But yeah, guys, let me know what you think in the comments. As always, I'm Blaze2K. We cover Switch 2 news on the channel every day. Please like, subscribe, click the bell icon. It really helps out a lot. And check the links in the description for the best Switch 2 accessories. I've even put a link to the JSOX ones at the top of the list as well, so go check them out. You'll really like what JSOX have made, and I'll be showcasing them on the channel very soon. So yeah, check out our 24-hour stock tracking stream as well before you go. It's a cool place to hang out and talk about Switch 2 and meet some really cool people. And also, get alerted to the second Switch 2 restocks. Anyways, peace out. Bye.
Let's go.